So we are continuing our learning of our series on Rebbe Nachman on Simcha. We are still in Torah Chaf Gimel in Likutei Moharan Tinyana, in the second volume of Likutei Moharan, Torah Chaf Gimel, Torah 23. It's been a long time since we last looked at this, and so it would be worthwhile, I think, to just run through the text again. It is a blessedly very, very short Torah with a lot in it, but hopefully by just looking at the text again, we can reorient ourselves and then begin to unpack a little bit. So Rabbi Nachman begins, B'inyan HaSimcha. On the topic of Simcha, Al Pi Mashal, in a metaphorical sense, Shalifa'amim kishabnei Adam smechin umerakim. Sometimes you find that while people are happy and dancing, azai chotzvim ish echad mibachutz, they grab one person who is on the outside of the dancers, shehu ba'atzvus umar shvora, who is sad and depressed, umachnisim oso bal karcha l'toch mocho hamarakim, and they bring him against his will into the circle of the people dancing, the happy people. They bring the sad person who's standing on the outside, and they drag him into the circle. And they force him against his will that he too should be happy with them. Likewise, we find this same idea, this same concept playing out with regard to the inner experience of Simcha that we have. When a person is happy, when a person is happy, their sadness, their depression, their pain, their difficulties, they move off to the side. They depart and they go to the side. They're pushed away. They don't disappear. They don't change. They're still what they were. They're still sad. They're still difficult. They're still painful. But they move off to the side because they're being crowded out by the happiness, by the dancing circle. Avomala Yisera, but a greater thing, a greater mila, a greater level than this of crowding out the negativity and the sadness is lehisametz, is to strengthen oneself. Lirdov achar hamarshlo or daika, to run after the sadness and the depression, specifically to run after it. And to bring that too within the simcha, in a way that actually transforms the depression, the mara shechora, into simcha. Just like the dancing circle, when the people are dancing, the person who doesn't want to dance stands off to the side. This is like internally when we're happy, and our sadness and our depression and our difficulties crowd out and move to the side and make space for the dancing, but remain. And the unhappy, sad, depressed person remains at the wedding. He's just not dancing on the dance floor with everybody else. And then the Milo Yusera, and that's something, right? So now the dancing is not ruined because it's not, you don't have a grumpy, depressed person standing in the middle with their arms crossed and a frown on their face, ruining the dancing, right? So the dancing takes place, the simcha happens, but the marshvora, the atzvos, the sadness, the depression, the anger is still present, it's still there, it's just on the outside of the circle. And the higher level here, Mali Yisera, is that you grab the Mara Shechora from outside the circle, you grab the depression, and you grab the sadness, the person who is not dancing, you grab him from outside the circle and bring him into the circle, and thereby transform the Mara Shechora into Simcha. You change, you transform all of the sadness, all of the depression, all of the difficulties into Simcha. Like a person who comes into a simcha, just like a person, when a person walks into a simcha, all of their worries and their sadness and their depression, it falls away. It transforms into simcha. And what's happening is, what we find is that they're grabbing the depression, and they're bringing it into the simcha against its will. Happy wants to be happy, sad wants to be sad, and you grab the sadness against its will and bring it into the happy and transform the sad into happy. Kamashal hanal, like the mashal we just mentioned of the dancing circle dragging the person in from the outside. Okay, that's the first half of the piece. We'll stop there for a minute. Last time we learned, we focused on this idea of transforming sadness into joy, sadness into simcha, atzvos, marshor into simcha, and we talked about how that happens. We talked about how there are really always two avodas. There are always two different giluyim of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the world. One is a presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is Simcha is a metaphor for that, the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the experienced presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When you see that things are good, when you see that things are as they need to be, when things are aligning and going well, there's Simcha. There's Simcha. You're happy, you're in harmony, you're content, and there's Simcha. And that is one very valuable and one form of Gilui HaKadosh Baruch Hu. However, at the same time, there's also another form of avoda, we said, which is the avoda of aye makom kavodo, the avoda of I'm not experiencing your presence right now, and I'm wondering where you are, right? In contrast to male kol haaretz kavodo, like we say in Kedusha on Shabbos, at Musaf on Shabbos, in contrast to male kol haaretz kavodo, that the entire world is filled with you, everything is elokus, I see your hand in everything, and therefore I'm joyful and happy because everything is as it should be. Sometimes there's mar shechora, there's sadness, there's an absence of simcha because we're asking a question, aye makom kavodo. We're not experiencing male kol haaretz kavodo. We're not experiencing that everything is Ratzon Hashem and everything is as it should be and everything is perfectly good the way it is. And so what's there to not be happy about? Instead, we're experiencing that things aren't the way they're supposed to be. We're experiencing disappointment, we're experiencing anger, we're experiencing letdown, we're experiencing sadness and dashed expectations and so on and so forth. And so we're asking, aye makom kavodo, where are you? Things aren't the way they should be. There's Hester Panim, and I'm experiencing atzvos and marshora as a result. And we talked about again last time how Rebbe Nachman talks about this idea in Likutei Halachos, where he makes the point that actually the power of aye makom kavodo, the awareness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that comes with an aye makom kavodo of atzvos and marshora, of depression, can actually be a much, much higher Gilui HaKadosh Baruch Hu, a much higher spiritual experience than the experience we get mitoch simcha, because when everything is good, then everything is good, and we don't have to look any further. But whatever we're experiencing as good isn't really the whole thing, right? If a full apprehension of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is always beyond us, and so if we think everything is fine the way it is, then we are missing the point to some extent. And if we think everything is good the way it is, then we can't even imagine how good it could possibly be or how good we can appreciate that it is. And if we already think it's perfectly good and we already think we're seeing it as perfectly good, then we're not searching for anything more than that. We're content with where things are. That contentment is good. It produces simcha. But on the other hand, it means we're stuck where we are. And the value of Mara Shechor and the value of Atzvos, which Atzvos, Rebbe Nachman says in Torah Kufman Hey, in Likutei Moharan, Volume 1, he says that all Atzvos comes from a chisaron emuna. Chisaron, a sense of lack, a deficiency in emuna, a deficiency in everything is perfectly good the way it is, everything is elokus, exactly the way it is. A deficiency in emuna produces atzvos. A deficiency in emuna, on the other hand, however, also creates space and kalim to receive something more and receive something deeper. So how does it work, we said? How does it work that you can transform joy into sadness into joy? How is it that you do this avoda of hafcha, of transforming the atzvos and the mar shechora into simcha? It's particularly by leaning into the right, as Rabbi Nachman says, to chase after the marshal, not run away from it because I don't want to engage it deeply, grab it and bring it closer to you, bring it into the circle. And by bringing it into the circle, you can appreciate much more deeply that whatever you already have wasn't really the full picture. And you can actually transform the atzvus into simcha because the atzvus becomes a vehicle, and you realize that the atzvus is functioning as a vehicle to bring you to something even more. And so now the atzvus wasn't a bad thing, it's a good thing. The yisurin weren't a bad thing, a negative thing, a bad experience. They were a good experience, or you appreciate in retrospect how they were a good experience because they became stepping stones and building blocks, feelings and experiences of chisaron, of lack, of need, of aye makom kavodo, that spurred you to much, much bigger things later on. And so you literally you transform the experience of something negative. It becomes something that is a simcha, not because suddenly sadness turns into joy, but because sadness becomes completely reframed and is seen as what it really is, which is an opportunity to grow much, much bigger because you're experiencing a sense of chisaron, and chisaron is always a stepping stone for getting to the next level. Because if I'm not experiencing chisaron, if I'm experiencing shlemus, the opposite of chisaron, if I'm whole, exactly, I'm good the way I am, then I don't move anywhere. And then I'm just nitzchi. I'm eternal. I don't change because I'm perfect. Right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu is nitzli. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, ani Hashem lo shanisi. I don't change. Why? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is shalim b'tachlis hashlemus. He's totally whole, totally complete. There's nothing missing there, so there's nowhere to go. There's no movement to be had. There's no change to be had, really, at least in Hashem's essence. And when it comes to human beings, however, we aren't that. And if we ever think we're at shlemus, we're going to find ourselves deeply disappointed. And so it's a gift and an opportunity when we actually experience a sense of lack that then brings us to deeper and deeper levels of shlemus. And so we literally thereby transform the difficulty and the pain and the hardship, the isurim, the marashachora, the atzvos, into simcha by reframing it as a whole different thing. It's not something negative. It's something positive. It's not even just a stepping stone to something positive. The fact that it's a stepping stone becomes something positive because it gives us access to an awareness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that lies and inheres within Ayin Makom, within the I don't see you here. If I see you here, then I'm seeing something I'm processing through my own mind. I'm not seeing you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I can't see you. But if I think I'm seeing you, then I'm very far from seeing you. If I know I'm not seeing you, Ayin Makom, and then I have a much bigger opportunity to get much closer to. So that's one thing we talked about last time in terms of how it is that we can transform, or what the avoda, what the mechanism through which we can transform atzvos into simcha, marshchora into simcha. But I want to highlight something else tonight and discuss something a little bit, a different angle of this, which is that Rabbi Nachman emphasized that what we just discussed, this transformation of sadness into joy, of atzvos and marshchora into simcha, this is a step 2 almost, right? Rabbi Nachman is describing a 2-step process here. Step 2, which he calls Ma'ale Yisera, right? It's not the baseline. It's something better than step 1. Ma'ale Yisera is what we just discussed. Ma'ale Yisera is being able to transform simcha, transform atzvos and sadness and pain and suffering into joy. That is step 2. That is Ma'ale Yisera. To chase after it and transform it into something good. But before that, there's a lower level. There's an initial level, which is to force the sadness into the circle, to bring the sadness into the circle. The sadness is not any less sad. The sadness is still sad. When you drag it into the circle, and it's still the marshchora, it's still the atzvos, and you force it into the circle anyway, you're not transforming the sadness into joy. You're just bringing the sadness into the joy. And now you have joy and sadness intermingled with each other, and you just force the sadness to be there in the joy. And it seems to be step 1. Ma'ale Yisera is then to take that sadness and transform that sadness into joy. For those familiar with the Torah of Chabad, this would be Another way of, maybe you can conceptualize this as ischafia and ishafcha, right? Step one is ischafia. You have to suppress something. You have to control something. You have to bring something to heal. Here, Rabbi Nachman is saying you have to bring sadness to heal. You have to control it. You have to dominate it. And then once you dominate it, then you can transform it into something good. That's a much bigger level, but you got to dominate it first. So tonight, I want to take a step back and note that Maili Yisera, level 2, was to transform the sadness into joy. But before level 2, before you can ever get to level 2, there's a level 1. And level 1 is simply a matter of forcing sadness into the circle. Forcing sadness into the circle. And so there's a lot to say about this, I think. Number one, it seems to me that part of what Rebbe Nachman is emphasizing here by setting up this two-step process is don't get stuck in perfection. Don't get stuck in trying to transform your sadness into joy, your marshflora into simcha, and trying and trying and trying. I'm gonna make myself happy. I'm gonna make myself happy. I'm gonna transform all of my sadness into joy. And I'm working on it, I'm working on it, I'm working at it. And I'm failing at it, I'm failing at it. It's very, very hard. It's hard to transform sadness into joy. You literally have to be able to have perspective, at least based on one way of understanding this that we talked about last time. You have to be able to see the perspective of all of my difficulties and all of the Yisurim that I suffer. They're all Yisurim Shalava. They're opening up new senses of chisaron and of neediness and want and need and pain and suffering that creates hishtokukus and gaguim and yearning and needing and wanting for more giloy or elokus. And to be able to reframe difficulty when one is actually in difficulty in that positive way is extremely, extremely difficult. Extremely difficult. We're human beings. We're not malachim, we're human beings. We don't see the world through the bird's eye lens of a drone, 5,000 feet up. We're in it. And when we're in it, it's very, very hard to transform, really, truly transform sadness into joy. Maybe I can push it away sometimes, but maybe I can see the sadness for something good. And I can take joy in the sadness a month later, a year later, 10 years later. I can see how negative experiences have now been stepping stones and valuable building blocks and have made me who I am. And I'm so much better for it, and I can appreciate them. But at the time when I'm in the sadness, when I'm in the marsh floor, when I'm sitting on the outside of the circle with my arms crossed and a frown on my face and refuse to dance, to actually grab that person and get them to dance with joy, or to transform that sadness, not only get them to dance with joy, but to all of their sad energy becomes happy energy and joyful energy. It's extremely, extremely difficult. Extremely difficult. And Rabbi Nachman here is partly, I think, telling us, don't get stuck in how hard that is. There's something that's much easier than transforming atzvos into simcha, and just start somewhere. One of Rabbi Nachman's central teachings is just start, do something. Just do something, whatever you can, just start somewhere. You have somewhere to start over here. Somewhere to start is the sadness is on the outside of the circle, grab it and pull it in. You don't have to be happy. You don't have to make the sadness happy. Just grab the sadness and pretend the sadness is happy. The sadness is going to dance around the circle like everyone else. He's going to plaster a smile on his face, and he's going to pretend that he's happy. He's going to participate in the dance. He's not happy. The sad energy is all still there, waiting to come back to the surface as soon as the song is over, and he sits down on the side again, the frown on his face. The sadness is still there, but plaster a fake smile on the face of the sadness. Ischafia, force it into something that it's not. Pretend that the sadness is joy. And that already is a little bit of something. Start somewhere. That's number one, right? The avoda of ki'ilu, like it speaks about in Sichos Moharan a few times, right? The avoda of ki'ilu, act as if. If I'm not ready to be happy yet, pretend that, act as if I'm happy. Pretend that I'm happy. That's one thing I think the Rebbe Nachman is giving us over here, which is an entry point into the avodah of transforming joy, sadness into joy, an entry point which is don't transform it yet. Just force it to pretend. Force the sadness to pretend to be happy. Let the sadness sit there, but pretend to be happy. That's number one. An entry point into this avoda, because if you set the bar very high, and everyone's trying to jump over the very high bar, no one ever jumps over the bar. If you give people an opportunity to start building up towards jumping over the high bar by giving them a low bar to jump over and something that they can accomplish, something that maybe is less impactful or less real, because this is really very much less real. Grabbing the sad person from outside the circle and forcing them to dance around in the circle is not real. It's fake. It's pretending. You're forcing. Rabbi Nachman says it explicitly. You force the sadness against its will, to be happy with it. It doesn't make it happy. You're forcing it to be happy. This is the very definition of not real. And when you force something, it's not coming authentically from inside. It's not coming the panemius of the sad person. The sadness itself is not transforming to joy. The sadness is sad, and it's just looking a certain way on the outside. It's not real. It's inauthentic. It's fake. It's pretend. Rabbi Nachman says, do it anyway. If that's where you're at, go ahead and pretend. And so I want to talk about tonight a little bit about this idea of pretending. Right? Pretending to be happy, pretending. What's the value of pretending? Pretending seems to be sheker. Doesn't seem to be in line with emes. What's the value Rabbi Nachman is trying to teach us here in saying, well, pretend to be happy. Force the sadness to act happy. And that's something good as well. What's going on over there? So there are a few ways, there are a few different ideas, or a few different ways to approach the idea of what this pretending is. Okay. One idea, which I heard recently, a gorgeous shiur from Rogelio Rosenfeld, who spoke about a few different pieces from Ravar and Mr. Celia about the value of pretending. Pretending is actually a very, very high avoda in and of itself. Okay, step one of Rabbi Nachman's avoda here, which is to pretend that the sadness is happy, is in and of itself something very, very high, very, very significant, very, very special. Pretending something is a very powerful emulation. V'alachta b'drachav is a very powerful emulation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the following sense. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the ultimate pretender. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the ultimate pretender, pretending that he is something that he's not, of putting on a mask, of putting on a face that is not who he really is, but puts on a face anyway for the sake of impacting, communicating, relating with those around. It's not really who he is. Who HaKadosh Baruch Hu really is, ba'atzmuso, is impossible to contemplate, talk about, or conceptualize in any way, shape, or form. There is nothing we can say about what HaKadosh Baruch Hu really is. All we can ever say is how HaKadosh Baruch Hu reveals himself to us, and he always reveals himself to us through masachim, through levushim, through clothed in certain garments, wearing certain masks. Even the art itself, all the way up, is an emanation of the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, not HaKadosh Baruch Hu itself. And all of those ways in which HaKadosh Baruch Hu is revealed to us, down to the lowest levels, all the way up to the highest levels, all of them are pretend, so to speak. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is pretending to be something. HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the Tzimtzum pretends to be something that operates b'gvul. HaKadosh Baruch Hu creates a bria with rules of nature, with cause and effect, with schar va'onesh, and all of these things are pretending as if there's cause and effect and schar va'onesh and rules of nature, as if when I drop something it falls down, and when I touch something hot I get burned, and when I freeze water it turns into ice. As if it's invariably true. When I do bad things happen to me, I get punished. When I do good things, I get rewards. As if any of these things are actually true. All of that is pretend. It's all a pretend. Kadosh Baruch Hu is pretending that these things are real. These are masachim, these are levushim, these are clothes, these are masks that Kadosh Baruch Hu puts on to hide who it really is, it with a capital I and a capital T, but not the scary clown that lives in the sewer. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as it really is, has to put on masks and has to put on clothes to hide what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in order for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to be revealed and be accessible in any way, shape, or form. And so the ultimate pretender is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And so pretending is not so crazy. And pretending is not so terrible. Pretending, if done honestly and authentically, with the knowledge that I'm actually pretending, this is not who I really am, I'm just pretending to be this person for a valuable and positive purpose, that is an avodah in and of itself. Grabbing the sad person and pulling them into the circle and having them pretend to be happy is valuable in and of itself, as long as the sad person appreciates that they're pretending, as long as the sadness within you that puts on a smile when it needs to, for the benefit of others and for the benefit of achieving something and getting out of bed in the morning and accomplishing this and accomplishing that. Sometimes the sadness has to be pushed aside a little bit and has to put on a good face, as long as it's not pretending to not be sad. As long as it's honestly pretending, and it's not thinking that it's really not sad, that is disintegration, and that is a total disconnect from reality. But as long as there's an ongoing sense that I'm only pretending, this is only pretend, this is only a tzimtzum, this is only a mesach, but really, really what's going on is what's really going on underneath. There can be a lot of value in that. It's very honest. I honestly know that I really am pretending. I honestly know that I'm sad, but I'm putting on a smile for the benefit of this person or that person, and so on and so forth. I'm not sad. I'm not, my sadness didn't go away. My sadness is real. I'm not ignoring it, but this person needs a smile from me right now. This person needs me to dance with them right now. This person needs me to show up for them right now. And I'm going to the extent possible, every person, Kefi Madrigaso, every person based on where they are and what they can handle and so on and so forth, but not any more than what they can. But to pretend in order to show up for others in the way that you can, in the way that they need, and that can be very, very powerful avoda. Not more than possible, and not to take oneself so seriously to think that the pretend is real. It's not real. But the pretending in and of itself is valuable. Now, why is it valuable, I think, is a very important question. Right? Why is the pretending valuable? What do we gain out of the pretending? How do we grow in the pretending? Where does the pretending get us? So here, we'll see how long shouldn't take too. Hopefully, it's not take too long. But I want to just talk about a small concept in Kabbalah. It's not an overly complicated concept, and many people are probably familiar with it anyway. So I think it's okay to talk about, and it won't require too much elaboration. But we know that in Kabbalah, really everything can be divided into Oros and Kalim. Oros and Kalim. There's Oros, the essence of things, and Kalim, the outer form that Or takes in order to be graspable and appreciable. The Arizal says that Oros and Kalim, which are the two components of everything that exists, everything that we encounter in the world consists of an Or and a Kli. There's the inner essence of the thing, and there's the Kli, the thing that holds that inner essence. Right? The example I use all the time is an apple. There's the Or of the apple, which is the Ratzon Hashem, the particular Bechina, the particular aspect, the Nitzutzel, of course, the spark of godliness, the Ratzon Hashem that creates apples. That particular thing is the Or. It's the essence of the apple. The Kli of the apple is the flesh of the fruit, skin of the fruit, the color of the fruit, the dimensions of the fruit, the weight of that apple, the species of the apple, how tart it is, how sweet it is, the mouthfeel. Is it dry and crumbly? Is it wet and juicy? Is it right? All of those things are physical characteristics, temporal, physical, material characteristics of the apple. Those are all physical bounded realities that hold and communicate that needs its eloquence. Right? The easiest way to understand Oros and Kalim, of course, is Guf and Neshama. Or is a neshama, and Guf is a kli. Our physical body is the kli for our neshama. It's the only mechanism by which a neshama, which is pure spirituality, which is pure ruchnius, can function and interact and exist within a physical world. So you take an or, you take a neshama, you take pure spirituality, and you stick it into, so to speak, or allow it to manifest as a body. And now it has physical boundaries and physical limitations and physical definition. It's not just negative, it's also positive, right? The neshama has no definition. It has no ability to function in a physical world unless you give it tangibility. And so now I have 10 fingers. That's a kli, right? It's limited. It's a limited boundary. It's not 100 fingers, it's not 11 fingers, it's not 9 fingers, it's 10 fingers. And I have eyesight, and I have hearing, and I have taste, and I have skin, and I have a certain height and a certain weight, and I can run this fast, and I can think this well, and all of these are kalim that carry different aspects of the totality of the neshama that are used that can be used by the neshama to express itself in a graspable way and interact in a functional, effective, graspable way within the material world. So everything is composed of Oros and Kalim. The Arizal says that Oros and Kalim can each be further subdivided. There are two kinds of Oros. There are Oros, which we call Oros Paninian, internal Oros, and then there are Oros Makifim, surrounding Oros. What does that mean? Certain Oros, or certain aspects of any given Or, are Panini, are inside the Kli. What does it mean that they're inside the kli? They're controlled, they're bounded, they're limited, they're defined, right? The neshama that exists and functions through the physical body that I have, and not only the physical body, but also emotions, intellect, right? The totality of my body, that neshama is the orpanimi of the neshama, right? If neshama is an or, then the parts of the neshama that express themselves in my body, which are the nefesh, ruach, and neshama, body, the physical actions, the emotions, and the mind, and the mochin, these are the parts of the neshama that are contained and express themselves through the kli. They're contained within the kli, and that means they're bounded and constrained by the kli. They're limited by the kli. They're panimim, they're inside the kli, right? It's the water that fits inside of the cup. But then there's also Oros Makifim. Oros Makifim are surrounding Oros. What are surrounding Oros? They're Oros that don't fit in the Kli yet. They can't be held in the Kli. The Kli is not big enough for them. If I take an 8-ounce cup of water and I try to pour 10 ounces of water into the 8-ounce cup of water, 8 ounces will go into the cup and 2 ounces will spill outside of the cup and be makifim. They will surround the cup. They will be on the outside of the cup, but they can't be contained within the cup yet because the cup itself is not large enough and big enough to hold that much or. And so when we talk about the body and the soul, there are oros makifim as well. There's the chai and the yechida, which don't quite fit. They're levels of consciousness, they're levels of spiritual awareness, of connection that don't quite manifest in the physical body. They don't manifest as actions. They don't manifest as emotions. They don't manifest as intellect, as ideas. They exist outside of our physical experience of this world, and they're not expressed in physical, tangible ways within this world. We can access them sometimes. We do access them sometimes, but not through our tangible material selves. So oros consists of panimium and makifim. And by definition, what does this mean? This means that oros panimium are, in a certain sense, they're lower than oros makifim because they're smaller. They can be contained. The oros makifim, by definition, are the parts of the or that are too big, that are too abstract, that are too zach and refined to fit into the kli, right? It's ounces 9 and 10 out of the 10 ounces. The eight fit into the cup. 9 and 10 are bigger than 1 through 8. They're higher numbers. They don't fit. Chai and yechida don't fit, so to speak, in the body because the body is not fully refined enough to hold them. It's too megusham. It's too bounded. It's too stuck in physicality, so it can't hold the more intensely spiritual aspects of the neshama, the chai and the yechida. Okay? So oros makifim are the things we can't yet grasp. Oros panimium are the things we can grasp, we can appreciate, we can contain within our kelim. When it comes to kelim as well, the Arizal says, kelim consists of two parts. Kelim consists of panimius hakli and chitzonius hakli. There's an inner aspect, there's an inside of a kli, and there's the outside of the kli. Two parts of the kli. Right. Every kli has every vessel, the cup has an inside, and then it has an outside. It has the walls of the cup, and then it has the inside of the cup. The inside of the cup is where you hold the or panimi, right? You fill the panimia sakli with the oros panimia. The chitzonia sakli, which is just kli itself, it's not the place where you're holding the or. The Arizal says is even higher than the panimia sakli. And here's the reason. The way avoda works, the Arizal says, the Leshon elaborates on this, and others elaborate on this, but the way avoda works, all avoda works this way, is that we're at whatever level we're at, and we're able to appreciate as much presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we have as much God awareness and as much avoda as we can handle. Whatever we can handle right now, that is or panimi. Whatever we're capable of handling right now, whatever our kelim, our physical kelim, our emotional kelim, our intellectual kelim, whatever it is that we're able to handle right now, that is or panimi, right? So let's use davening, for example, right? Let's say I'm able to daven all the words. I can daven all the words in chakras, but I can only say the first pasuk of Shema with a certain level of kavanah, let's say. Okay? That means that right now, that's where I stand right now. Saying the words of davening, I'm physically able to do that. Okay, that's or panimi. That's avoda that can fit within my kelim. I possess that avoda. It fits, right? And the kavana of the first pasuk in Shema, that too is or panimi. I'm able to fit that within my intellectual and emotional capacity to have kavana, and that too is or panimi. Having kavana for the second pasuk of Shema, having kavana for Shema Esrei, those are makifin. Those are things I don't have access to yet. I can't internalize those things yet. I can't bring them inside myself yet because I can't own them, so to speak, because I don't have the kelim to handle them yet. I can't conceptualize it. I don't understand it. I don't have the attention span for it. I don't have the patience for it. I have to grow my kelim of patience, of intellect, of emotional connection, of awareness, of presence, and so on and so forth. I have to grow those kelim in order to bring those makif and those oros makif and those spiritual realities that are outside of myself, not yet internalized, to bring them in. I have to grow my kelim. How do I grow my kelim? The Arizal says. The way I grow my kelim, the Arizal says, is through the chitzonius of a kli. Not the panemius of a kli, but the chitzonius of a kli. The way I grow my kelim is by the chitzonius of the kli, which is pure action, right? Think of the body as a kli, and think of the panemius of the body versus the chitzonius of the body. The body is a kli for the neshama. Think of the body in terms of its panemius and chitzonius. The panemius of the body is much deeper and internal, versus the chitzonius of the body, which is much more external and coarse. In one sense, right, everything is relative. Hakol be'erech, and everything is relative in Pnimius HaTorah, but we could say that, in a sense, relative to mechanical action, mitzvahs anashim milumada, havana, conscious awareness of what I'm saying, right? Doing a mitzvah just with action might be using the chitzonius of my kelim, right? Giving a tzedakah, putting a coin in a tzedakah box. It's chitzonius of the kelim. I don't pay attention to what I'm doing. I have no awareness. I have no connection emotionally to what I'm doing. It's just an act. I do the act because my Moharan told me since I'm 6 years old to put a coin in the pushka. So I do the act. That's an act done with chitzonius of kelim, not with panemius of kelim. Panemius of kelim would be using my emotion, using my intellect, and doing more than just an act. Using the chitzonius of my kelim is just the act in and of itself. It's not real. It's not authentic. It doesn't come panemius nafshi. We see this also when the Arizal talks about the idea of panim and achar. Maybe it's not worth getting into now, but the idea of panim and achar as well, the idea that certain things, you can do things the derech panim, or you can do things derech achar. You can do things with presence, with awareness, with focus. Panim, you can really let yourself out and show yourself through the thing that you're doing. Authentically, it comes from inside and it expresses itself outside. That's doing something to panim. Or you can do something ba'achar, which as the Zohar describes, is like tossing something over your shoulder to give it to somebody, right? I'm not paying attention. I don't care. I'm not giving you myself. I'm not paying attention to you. I'm not revealing myself to you. I don't really want to do it, because if I wanted to do it, I would turn around and like look you in the face and hand you what I'm going to hand you. No, I toss something over my shoulder. I don't really want to do it. My heart's not in it. That's achar. That's chitzonius. That's pure action. It's mitzvahs anoshim milumata. It's not. You're not really there. But the Arizal says this is something very, very fascinating, very important. How is it that a person grows? The mechanism by which a person grows is by taking things that are oros makifim and making them oros panimim, by taking things that I don't yet have access to or don't yet understand or haven't yet ameliorated within my own kelim. I don't understand them. I can't relate to them. I don't do them. Right? They're outside of my kelim. And I bring them inside my kelim by doing them, by relating to them emotionally, by understanding them intellectually. Now they're mine. Like the Sefer Tanya talks about it in Parakeh and Sefer Tanya, they become part of me. I become part of them. They become panimium. They become bounded within my reality. They ameliorate themselves within me. And that works, that's growing, because as soon as I access things that are makif to me and make them panimi to me, what gets revealed is new levels of makif. Like walking, if you walk towards the horizon, you walk towards the horizon, every step you take towards the horizon moves further and further away, right? And if I run towards where I saw the horizon and I reach that point, I realize that there's lots more land in front of me further and further, and the horizon's much further than it was before. So growing is taking makifin, which were beyond me, bringing them inside me, something I haven't done before. Say, I'm not so good with making bracha. So I start to make a bracha before I have my morning coffee. Right, so I mumble the bracha. So now I wasn't making a bracha at all before. So that was a makif relative to me, right? It was a spiritual level that I haven't yet attained, right? It's not even in my actions. And I bring it I bring that makif and I bring it panimi, I bring it within myself on the level of action. And then not only do I bring it at the level of action, but I start to relate to it emotionally and I relate to it intellectually and I bring it up and I'm really, really internalizing it. But as I do that, what reveals itself to me, something that I wasn't ever thinking about before, which was as soon as I start saying the bracha, now the concept of I'll say the bracha with kavana reveals itself, right? Before, the only thing that was beyond me was saying brachas. Brachas with kavana, that's not even something I could have even imagined. It's not even on my radar, right? It's past my horizon. The horizon is make a bracha. So, but I'm not making brachas yet. So now I start making brachas. So now my new horizon is make the bracha with kavana. I start making the bracha with kavana. Now the new horizon is and make a bracha achron, and make a bracha achron with kavana, and so on and so forth. Right? We grow by bringing things that are makif, that are outside our current capacity, bringing them inside, making them part of our capacity, revealing new things that are beyond our current capacity, and reaching for those too. But how do we reach, the Arizal says? The way that we reach for things, the way that we grow, the way that we reach for makif and bring them inside of us is through the chitzonius hakli. It's specifically through the most external part of the kalim. That's the thing that's closest to the makif, right? If you think about it, just if you picture a kli with an or inside and or outside the or that's outside the kli is closest to the outside of the kli. So how do you begin to touch the or makif that's beyond you, the spiritual access, the awareness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the avoda that's beyond you right now? The way you access it is through the chitzonius hakli. What's the chitzonius hakli? It's the most coarse, the most superficial, the most external appearance-based part of the kli, the body. It's the physical act that we don't even pay attention to. It's the physical act that we're not even like trying to do with any intentionality. It's mitzvah sanashim milumada. It's shalo lishma. Right? I do it just because I don't understand it. I don't connect with it. I'm just going to do it anyway. Right? That is the entry point for bringing something that's a makif and slowly bringing it panimi through the chitzonius hakli. So with this idea, I think we can go back and we can understand what Rebbe Nachman is telling us in a whole other level. The idea of pretending, of grabbing the sadness and bringing it into the circle, not to transform it or not to transform it yet, but just to force it to dance even though it's not happy. To force ourselves, put on a fake happy face and dance even though we don't actually feel it. As long as we're doing it honestly, knowing that we don't really feel it, this is a very powerful thing, because this is literally how growth happens. What's happening here by pulling the man into the circle against forcing him against his will to participate in the circle, as long as he doesn't think he's happy, as long as he knows he's not happy, what's happening is that the chitzonius of the kli, the pure action that has nothing going on the inside, right? Sadness on the inside, but dancing feet on the outside, pure chitzonius of the kli action is reaching for that makif, is reaching for that or makif, is reaching for joy, right? Now, the chitzonius of the kli, the pure action, is being exposed to the next level. And by being exposed to the next level, it can begin to bring that next level in. It'll begin to bring that next level in at a very low level, which is just action without thought, without emotion, without intent, kavana salev, havana, none of this hisbonenus, none of that's happening. All that's happening is I'm doing an act. I'm dancing in the circle. Okay, but I dance in the circle and I pretend to dance in the circle. And as long as I know I'm pretending, as long as I'm being honest and I know that I'm pretending, what it now is happening, I've just brought that makif of action of Simcha into the circle. It's now panini. Now, once I brought the action in, and now I'm really dancing, because the dancing now is real, right? I'm not happy dancing, but I am dancing. The act is real. Now I can reach for the next level. And I can bring I feel happy, or I understand why I'm dancing. Now I can begin to internalize the dancing even more. I can internalize the Simcha even more by pretending at this first level of forcing the sadness into the circle, doing something that seems to be inauthentic, is inauthentic. What's really going on, the process that's going on here, is the whole process of growth that's described by the Arizal, of chitzonius de kli, reaching for oros de makifin, bringing those makifin in and making them oros panemium, things that I own, things that I can internalize, things that fit within my kalim, because my kalim grow and stretch as I push them outward. I stretch outward with the chitzonius of the kli, which is just an act. I do the act, I grab the act, I keep doing the act. Like the Rambam says, I habituate myself to the act. It's not that habituation is good in and of itself, but habituation of the act. When we get stuck in mitzvah sanashim, when we think we're at the end, when we stop pretending at the level of mitzvah sanashim, that's very bad. When we think we've got it and we're only doing mitzvah sanashim, that's very, very problematic. But if I understand authentically that I'm just doing the act. It's just mitzvah sanashim milumada. I'm just doing the act. I'm not in it. I don't care about it. I'm not connected to it. I don't understand it, but I'm doing it anyway. that is stretching my kalim, which creates more space for more oros d'makifim to move inside, which will reveal even more oros d'makifim that I haven't yet touched yet and never was aware of before, that I can now start working towards and grabbing those and bringing those inside. And I expand and I expand and I expand because my kalim are stretching and stretching and stretching, because I keep reaching and pushing them further and further outward towards the makifin that I haven't touched yet. And so I think, even though the Mila Yusera is to transform joy, sadness into joy, the way to start with that, Rabbi Nachman says, the way to start with that is not to transform the sadness into joy. The way to start with that is just to force the sadness to act like it's joyful. Stretch the kalim of joy to include sadness, not in reality, but just in pretend action. And then stretch them further and further and further, and gradually begin to change and transform the sadness into joy, as Rosh Hashanah does.